And because we have so much going on, very rarely do I see a man who's very deliberate and intentional about what he wants to accomplish, what he's willing to say yes to, what he's definitely willing to say no to, and ultimately how is he going to produce the life that he desires. So get out your notepads. I got 4 key strategies and tips here. And by the way, somebody mentioned this at one of our events the other day. They said to me, I really appreciate your ability to break down the complex into simple strategies. Gentlemen, welcome to the Order of Man podcast. My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm your host and the founder, and we've been going strong for over 9 years now, which is a testament to the work that we're doing, but also a testament to the work that you're doing. That is the most important thing to me. I could do everything I could possibly do, but if you're not implementing this information, you're not applying this information, and you're not making your life and the lives of the people who care about you better, then we're not really fulfilling our mission. And our mission is to reclaim and restore masculinity in a society that continues to buck, continues to fight against, continues to ostracize, continues to villainize men. I want to establish us as authority figures, as leaders, as men who are credible and capable and strong and bold and courageous, and at the end of the day, are willing to get things done. So that is the mission of this podcast. We've got this podcast, we've got events, we've got our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, and today is your Friday Field Notes. I'm going to share some thoughts with you today about being intentional in all things. There's a lot of skill sets. There's a lot of things that you need to develop. There's a lot of tools and resources available, but unless you're intentional about what you want to accomplish on both the personal and professional front, you're going to leave yourself wanting, and those, again, who you care about, those who are relying upon you, you're not going to serve them as well as you could. So we're going to talk about intentionality. Before I do, I want to mention my good friends and show sponsors over at Montana Knife Company. Guys, these men and women are making great knives in Montana, 100% made in America. If you're looking for a hunting knife as we start rolling into hunting season, if you're looking for some knives around the kitchen, which I use about 50% of my evenings, look no further than Montana Knife Company. Check them out. If you want a hunting knife, an everyday carry knife, something in the kitchen, you need look no further than Montana Knife Company. And if you end up picking up something over there, use the code Order of Man, all one word, Order of Man at checkout, and you'll save some money when you do. All right, guys, with that said, let me get into the conversation today. We're going to talk about 4 key strategies, 4 key tips or factors when it comes to being intentional. Because look, at the end of the day, I see a lot of guys who want to accomplish big things. They, to some degree, know what they should be doing. They know they should be in the gym. They know they should be courting their wives and their spouses and their significant others. They know that they should be excelling at work and asking for promotions and developing skill sets and asking for the sale. They know all of these things, and yet when push comes to shove, they just can't seem to implement for some reason or another. And I think ultimately it comes down to whether or not a guy is intentional. If you know what you need to do, but you're not really intentional about doing it, then you might do some things that work and you might do some other things that don't really work, and you're kind of just throwing everything at the wall and just seeing what sticks. I don't want you to do that. I'm busy. You're busy. We're inundated with the amount of things that we can do on a daily basis. I was thinking about this just yesterday as my second son is almost wrapping up his baseball season. I've got my oldest son who just finished lacrosse. I've got my youngest 2 children, a boy and a girl, who just finished up soccer about a month ago. I've got my second son who has another week or 2, depending on how they do, of baseball. There's a lot going on. There is so much going on just in the realm of my kids' sports, let alone business, let alone my own physical prowess, let alone my own relationships, romantic relationships, and even platonic relationships. There is so much going on, and we get bombarded, and we add this to our own plate. We do this to ourselves, And because we have so much going on, very rarely do I see a man who's very deliberate and intentional about what he wants to accomplish, what he's willing to say yes to, what he's definitely willing to say no to, and ultimately how is he going to produce the life that he desires. So get out your notepads. I got 4 key strategies and tips here. And by the way, somebody mentioned this at one of our events the other day. They said to me, I really appreciate your ability to break down the complex into simple strategies. I wish I could say that I'm exceptional at this and I know what you're going through. Ultimately, it's how I operate. If I can break down complex strategies into 4 or 5 or 6 strategies or steps that help me improve, then I hope I'm giving you the information you need for you to improve. So let's break this down. We got 4 key steps. Number 1 is to identify. So write that down. Identify. Men, I need you to identify what is important and what isn't. Because when we're inundated with messaging and branding and billboards and radio ads and podcast sponsorships and all the social media channels that you belong to, and I know that I'm infiltrating some of that when it comes to what you guys are consuming, it's really difficult to delineate between what we should be consuming and what is important to us and what isn't. I spend a lot of time throughout my day deleting, blocking, banning, unfriending, unfollowing all of the social media accounts that are not relevant to me. And I want you to focus on 4 key areas of your life. That's it. 4 key areas. We don't need 17. We don't need 20. We don't need 100. We need 4. And the 4 are very simply this: calibration. That is getting right with yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It's connection, the relationships that you have with other people, your friendships, romantic relationships, partnerships in business, etc. Next is condition. It's your physical health, your sleep, your recovery, your diet, your nutrition, your strength training, other skill sets that revolve around your physical fitness. And the last, it's contribution. And contribution is becoming a man of value. How do you add value? By learning new resources, new skill sets, developing new ways of operating, identifying resources that are available to you. This is all what we call contribution. So if you can focus on those 4 key areas, then everything else should be rendered irrelevant. Now, I know it's hard. I know you probably follow 2,000 people on Instagram. I know that you pull up YouTube and you are able to escape from whatever your daily life looks like. And entertainment is important. I'm not going to say that. That falls into the calibration component. You have to be able to be entertained and have some joy and fulfillment and satisfaction in life. But if it's coming at the expense of everything else that you want to accomplish, it's going to be a problem for you. So number 1, I want you to identify what is actually important to you in those 4 areas. Calibration. Is it reading the Bible? Is it getting a closer relationship with God? Is it overcoming some insecurities? And this is something I've specifically had to deal with over the past specifically 2 weeks. I've identified some insecurities, and my girlfriend has helped me, for better or worse, identify those insecurities. But what are those insecurities, and what do I need to do to shore those up so that I can move forward in confidence and clarity and boldness with my life? But again, calibration is mental, emotional, and spiritual. Is it journaling? This is something that I've done. In fact, every single day for the past week, I have gotten my journal out. I've got a notepad right here. It's kind of a little bit buried today. I've got my battle planner and some tax stuff. But third down the list is my notepad. And every single day for the past week, I've been going in there and just asking myself one simple question. What do I want to accomplish today? What am I scared of? What am I excited about? The things I'm scared of, what can I do to overcome those things? How can I be more sure about myself? What can I do on a daily basis to feel good about my own performance, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, financially, etc. Guys, this is something that I do every single day. And it's really, really crucial that you begin to know yourself. If you can't know yourself and know what you're after and know what you want to accomplish and know what scares you and know what freaks you out and know what excites you, then really nothing else matters. I've made some posts over the past several weeks on social media, and one of the often trends that I hear or comments that I hear is you just need to know Jesus. And while I can agree with the sentiment, I think important, maybe not more important, maybe, I don't know. I'll let you guys decide that for yourself, but you need to know yourself. You know, when people say all you need is Jesus, I don't actually believe that's true, because Jesus put 8 billion people on the planet as of today, and there's opportunities to learn and grow and develop from those 8 billion people. Even Jesus had disciples. If Jesus was all-knowing, why did he need disciples? If he knew everything there was to learn, why did he need the 12 disciples? It's because we're meant to learn from other people. We're meant to expose ourselves to new information. We're meant to get information that challenges us and pushes us in a way that maybe we just couldn't do on our own. If Jesus, from a spiritual perspective, is the epitome of masculinity and manliness and all-knowing omnipotence, why did he have 12 disciples? Consider that, guys. He had 12 disciples because he was a man. He was a human. He needed to learn from other people. He needed to not only serve, but be presented with opportunities to learn. And I want you to really, really consider what you can do to learn in your life in those 4 realms. Again, calibration, mental, spiritual, emotional, connection, relationships with others, condition, your own physical health, and then contribution, your ability to become a man of value. There are a lot of people who are impacted by the decisions you're making. And I think it's very important to not only understand for yourself, and that's where the identify process comes in, but point number 2 is to be able to articulate where you're coming from with other people. I've seen a lot of guys who have very clear ideas about what they want to accomplish in life, and yet they're unwilling or unable to communicate that with other people. The problem is that everybody else has ideas. They have their own self-interest at heart. And that's not to be devious or deceitful towards you, but everybody is selfish, yourself, myself included. And if we can't clearly articulate what it is that we're after and what it is that we're trying to accomplish with other people, then we can't be upset when they aren't willing to get on board. Nobody is going to believe in you. And I know that's sad. I know that sucks. I know that's hard to hear, but your wife isn't obligated to believe in you. Your kids are not obligated to believe in you. Your family and friends and closest people in your circle are not obligated to believe in you. They believe in you to the extent that, number 1, you've communicated what you're trying to do, and number 2, you've met that expectation. If you have not met their expectation, then you are falling lower on the totem pole of hierarchy of credibility, trust, influence, and authority. That isn't convenient. That isn't easy. That's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, but that's the reality. Unless you can clearly articulate what it is you're trying to accomplish with the people who will be impacted directly by the decisions that you're going to be making, you can't hold them accountable to standing by you. Now, if I tell somebody, here's what I'm going to do, here's how I'm going to do it, and then I start working towards that objective, and people see the growth and the progress and the evolution and the results, and they decide to leave anyways, and some people will, at that point, it's on them. It's no longer on me. But if I've identified what I want, and point number 2, I've articulated what it is I'm trying to accomplish, and people decide to leave, and they will. Please don't get me wrong, they will. If they decide to leave, that's no longer on my shoulders. But if I've done those things, then I have an expectation of the people, romantic, platonic, and otherwise, to stand by me. And not only stand by me, but to support me, to uplift me, to edify me, to call me on my bull crap when I'm not doing what I said I would be doing. If they can't do that, then we don't have the right people in our corner. And that might mean that we gradually let these people out of our lives. That might mean that we make abrupt changes when it's appropriate. And that might mean we need to have some very hard come to Jesus type conversations with other people that we thought were in our corner who aren't. So if point number one is to identify what it is we want to accomplish, point number two is to articulate it to those who will be impacted by it. If I have clients, for example, and I'm going back to my financial planning days, who I want to pick up as clients and I want to serve them and build their financial plans, then it's up to me to explain and articulate what it is I want to do. I had a very, very, very clear conversation with the woman that I'm dating. This was months, maybe 3-4 months ago. And we had been dating, and I decided that this is a woman who I want to date exclusively. I don't want to date other people. I want to date her. I don't want her to date other people. I want her to date me exclusively. And we were at dinner one night, and I said to her, hey, I'm paraphrasing here, but I want to have a conversation with you about dating. I don't know who you're dating. I don't know what you're doing. That's your business. I know that there's other opportunities for me to date and go on dates and see other people, but I'm interested in you. And it doesn't feel right at this point for me to go on other dates when I know if I were to go on those other dates, I would be thinking about you. So I want to date you exclusively. I don't want you to date other people. I'm not going to date other people. I want us to date exclusively. And I remember her telling me, she said yes, by the way. And this was several days later. She told me, I'm really glad that you told me that. And I remember her saying how refreshing it was. What she said, and I'm paraphrasing here, is finally somebody who's willing to tell me what they want without beating around the bush. This is the power of intentionality. Now, she had a choice. If she were to come to me in that moment and say to me, hey, I appreciate that you want to date exclusively. I'm not really in that position, so I'm going to continue to date other people. That's her prerogative. She can make that choice. But I'll be damned if I don't communicate what I'm after and what I want. And if she said to me, hey, I want to date other people, at that point, I probably would have cut it off because she's not as serious about the relationship as I am. Now, fortunately, it worked out. She was as serious about the relationship as I was, and we've been dating for about 6 months, and things have been really good. But guys, you've got to communicate. And I'm talking about obviously in this romantic context, but with clients, how many of you are unwilling to ask for the sale? The number one reason salespeople, whoever that is, don't get the sale through surveys and through the data is because they haven't asked for the sale. You guys just aren't deliberate enough. You aren't intentional enough. When I meet with a client, I tell them, here's what I'm after. I want you to be a client. I think whatever problem you're dealing with, I can address. I have the solutions. And if you don't think that's the case, that's on you. But I believe enough in myself that I'm going to ask you to be a client of mine. If we're not aligned, no harm, no foul. But I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to softball it for you. Like, I'm going to tell you exactly what I want and why I want it. And hopefully our objectives are aligned. And if they are, we'll do business together. If they aren't, we won't. In my relationship, I'm going to tell her exactly what I want, and hopefully everything's aligned. If it isn't, then we move on and we go our separate ways. But if it is, then we're together. Be articulate in what it is you want. All right, number 3, enlist. Okay, so we're going to need to enlist the help of other people as we get cognizant of what it is we're after. We're going to need resources. We're going to need books. We're going to need information. YouTube is a great resource. This podcast is a great resource. Our brotherhood, the Iron Council, is a great accountability resource. We've got events, and there's other people doing events and programs and courses and everything, books and everything else, podcasts. Guys, you're going to need to enlist some help. It's hard when you're doing your thing to go at it alone, and yet so many of us men go at it alone. We think, and I don't know where we bought into this idea that the lone wolf mentality is the way to go. It isn't. You need to have other men in your corner supporting you, edifying you, uplifting you. You need intellectual resources. You need spiritual resources. You need to get your physical alignment in check and in order. And unless you can bring in all of these external resources to help you stay congruent to who you want to be, you're going to have a very difficult time doing so. I don't buy into this red pill MGTOW bullshit. And I don't because it promotes, whether it's intended or not, it promotes the idea that men are supposed to go their own way. You're not. You're really not. I wrote a book called Sovereignty. And yet the guy who wrote a book called Sovereignty that guys like Jordan Peterson and other people have based some of their information and talks on, if a guy like that is telling you that not only is it about going your own way, it's about enlisting other people to support you in that mission, I don't know what else I can tell you. This is crucial. You notice people are using the word sovereignty. Why? Because I wrote a book on it. And then they picked up that word and they picked up that lesson. And I'm grateful that they did because we need to expand this mission. But they picked up that and they co-opted what we've been sharing for almost a decade now. I'm telling you, you need not only to be sovereign, but you need to enlist other people. You don't go your own way. You enlist people on the path, on the journey to help you accomplish what it is you're after. And so we need to find the resources, the conversations, the podcasts, the tools, the email newsletters, the social media accounts that we follow, the events and experiences that we sign up for and enroll in. I hope you come to ours. If that serves you, great. We just had one a week and a half ago. It was amazing. We had 20 guys descend into the mountains of southern Utah to experience an event unlike any other. And these guys walked away with some very real tools, strategies, tactics, and mindsets to accomplish all they wanted to accomplish in life. If it's our events, great. If it's somebody else's events, great. But make no mistake, you as a man are meant to do it with other men and women in certain contexts. But unless you have other people you're enlisting in the battle, it's going to be futile. You're only one man. You cannot do it alone. I know the MGTOW and the red pill guys like to tell you, and the Omega guys, you can do it alone. You can't do it alone. There's no way. All right. And then the last point that I want to make. So we have identify what it is you're after. Number 2, articulate to other people who will be impacted by what it is you're after. Number 3, enlist the resources and tools that you need in your corner. And number 4 is alignment. It's boundaries. I kind of alluded to this already. If there's people in your life, romantic or platonic, who aren't aligned with what you're doing, then those people don't deserve to be in your corner. That isn't speaking to their worth. That isn't speaking any judgment about who they are as human beings. That has nothing to do with that. It just means you're not aligned. It just means what they're after is not in alignment with what you're after. So if you have a relationship that's not working out because these other key areas aren't coming together, then that's a person who is no longer going to be in your life. It doesn't mean they're not worthy. They are worthy. They're a human being. There's inherent worth as a human being. It just means they're not going to be in your life. That's it. Because they're not aligned with what you are. If I'm dropped in the middle of the ocean, for example, and I'm on a rowboat, maybe not the middle of the ocean, but between two islands, let's say, and I'm plopped right in the middle between those two islands. And there's two of us. And we're on this rowboat. We each have a set of oars. And I believe I need to row south. And the guy with me believes that we need to row north. And so we start going. What happens? We don't go anywhere. I don't need the guy who rows north. He can go row with somebody else. And by the way, he should also say, I don't need the guy, me in this case, the guy who rows south. He can go row with someone else. I want everybody rowing in the same direction. Now, if somebody has a better way to row, teach me that. Teach me how to do that. Because there are better ways to row. There are more efficient ways of doing things. But if you're going north and I'm going south, I don't really care about your efficiency. I need to know your direction, you're heading first. This is where alignment comes in. And once I know we're aligned in our mission, our objective, where we're going, then we can talk about what's the best way to get there. Is it to row this way? Is it to row that way? Is it short strokes, long strokes, left and then right, or both simultaneously? There's 1,000 different ways we can do it. But I need to first know that you are aligned with my mission. And if you're not, you're off the boat. It's not that I don't care about you. It's not that I don't love you. It's not that I don't want you to win. It's that you're not aligned. And that's where boundaries come into play. There's certain ways that I will and will not be treated. And if somebody's going to treat me in a particular way, I'm going to exile them from the boat. I want them to win. I'm going to throw them a life vest even. I'm going to dump them overboard. I'm going to throw them a life vest, and hopefully some other boat that's passing by in the direction they want to go will pick them up. It's no longer my responsibility, though. And so I'm going to align myself with people, platonic and romantic, relationships that are going to help me move in the direction I want to go. And when those boundaries are stepped over and stepped across, I'm going to communicate, right? And that comes back to point number 2 is articulate. Hey, I will not be treated like that. Hey, this is where I'm going. We both agreed to this, but now it seems like you're going in a different direction. Can you help me understand that? If they say, yeah, I am in a different direction, say, great, you're off the boat. Go find your own boat. Or I'm off the boat. One of the two is going to happen. But if we're aligned, cool, that's fine. Let's make sure we get back in alignment and make sure we're rowing towards the same destination. Guys, we have to be intentional in everything that we do. And I would say this as we part and we close out today. If you can't be intentional about it, don't do it. If you're going to be flippant and casual and random and just kind of willy-nilly about it, just don't do it. Do something else that you can be more intentional about. A lot of the times people will listen to this podcast or other podcasts and think that they have to engage in all the same hobbies and activities that I do in order to be a quote unquote man. I don't believe that. There's an infinite number of ways to be a man. It's not my way. Now, sure, there's some fundamental truths provide, preside about being a man. But the way that we honor that, the way we fulfill that the list is endless. But that's up for you to decide. Have you identified what you want? Have you articulated those desires with other people? Have you enlisted the right tools, resources, and people in your corner to make that a reality? And then have you aligned yourself with the people who are going to move you in the right direction and distance yourself from the people who won't? Intentionality in all things. If you're not going to be intentional, move on to something better. To the point I was making earlier, if you're listening to a podcast and it doesn't resonate with you or you don't care, do something else. It's okay. You didn't need it, but I give you permission to move on to something else. Even if that means you leave listening to this podcast, find something that's in alignment and congruency with what you want. All right, guys, that's what I've got for you today. We'll be back next week for our interview and Ask Me Anything. If you have any questions, thoughts, considerations, ideas, please message me on Instagram at Ryan Michler. My last name is Michler, or at ryan@orderofman.com, and I'll answer those questions for you. Guys, go out there, take action, be intentional, and become the man you are meant to be.